There are forces that whisper in the shadows. Not all who smile wish you peace. This month, unseen hands may rise against you, but heaven has already drawn a sword in your defense. When darkness plots in secret, God moves in silence. You are not unguarded. You are surrounded by divine fire. There is a world beyond what your eyes can see, a realm that hums with unseen conflict. Every moment of your day, forces of darkness are at work, scheming to twist truth, to discourage faith, and to choke out divine purpose. This hidden warfare is not fought with swords or bullets, but with whispers, deceptions, and spiritual influence. Witches and warlocks are not mere symbols from folklore. They represent those who willingly align themselves with dark powers to oppose the will of God. Their goal is not only to harm the body, but to corrupt the soul, to pull hearts away from divine alignment and into confusion and fear. Yet, for all their plotting, they forget one eternal truth. The throne of God cannot be shaken, and his dominion knows no rival. When the enemy moves in silence, heaven moves in power. You may not see it, but angels are constantly at war for your safety. Every curse, every spell, every evil intention sent your way must pass through the consuming fire of God's presence. And there, it loses its strength. Darkness cannot stand where divine authority reigns. Even when your spirit feels weary or oppressed, you must remember that you are not alone in the battle. The spiritual realm recognizes who belongs to God, and his mark upon your life makes you untouchable to the schemes of hell. This is why you must remain alert, not fearful but aware. Recognize that every temptation, every moment of discouragement, and every shadow that crosses your path is part of a greater attempt to distract you from your divine destiny. Yet the power within you, the Spirit of the living God, is infinitely greater than the forces that oppose you. The enemy can roar, but he cannot devour what God has sealed. You stand not as a victim in this war, but as a victor, already secured by grace. The unseen battle may be fierce, but the outcome has already been written. And it ends in your triumph through divine protection. There is an invisible wall of light surrounding every child of God, a divine hedge that no dark force can penetrate without permission. This is not a myth or poetic idea. It is a spiritual reality established by the Almighty himself. When you walk in obedience, your life becomes encircled by heavenly defense. Angels are not passive beings, they are active guardians, stationed to defend you against spiritual harm. Long before a curse is spoken or a trap is laid, God already knows and has placed protection in motion. He is not reactive. He is proactive. His protection begins before the threat even takes form. You may not see it, but every morning when you wake, the unseen army of heaven stands at attention over your life. When others plot behind closed doors, heaven listens and intervenes. The forces that move against you are limited, but God's coverage over your life is limitless. When you pray, your words create a shield, and your faith reinforces it. Every whisper of worship strengthens that divine barrier, making it impossible for demonic energy to settle around you. This is why prayerless living is dangerous, not because God abandons you, but because you leave parts of your life uncovered. Prayer invites God's power to manifest in your surroundings. Even when you feel exposed, you are never unprotected. The enemy may approach, but he cannot cross the line God has drawn around you. Every curse sent against you returns empty. Every evil eye looking your way sees only the light of God shining back. His protection is not limited to places or times. It travels with you, whether in your home, at work, or in moments of solitude. God's presence becomes your fortress. You must trust that his hedge is stronger than any spell, stronger than any ritual, stronger than any word spoken against you. The plans of witches and warlocks collapse before they begin because the hand of God is heavy upon those who belong to him. You are not merely safe. You are shielded by divine authority that cannot be broken. There are moments when something within you senses that all is not right. A heaviness in the air, a sudden unease, a quiet warning in your spirit. That is not coincidence, it is divine discernment. Spiritual sensitivity is the ability to perceive what cannot be seen with the natural eye. It is God's way of guiding and protecting his people before danger unfolds. Many ignore this inner prompting, brushing it aside as emotion or imagination, yet it is often the Holy Spirit alerting you to shift, to pray, or to stand still. This sensitivity is not born from fear, but from intimacy with God. The closer you walk with him, the more you begin to recognize his voice above the noise of the world. The enemy works subtly, often hiding behind what seems ordinary. Distractions, false friendships, alluring opportunities that pull you away from purpose. Without spiritual discernment, these traps appear harmless. But when your spirit is tuned to heaven's frequency, you begin to see beyond appearances. You recognize when something carries darkness disguised as light. You feel the shift in the atmosphere and understand that not every open door is divine. That awareness is your protection. It empowers you to pray before reacting, to pause before deciding, and to walk away from what does not align with God's peace. When you nurture your sensitivity through prayer, worship, and quiet time in God's presence, your spirit becomes like a well-tuned instrument. You start to discern not just evil, but also divine opportunity. You sense where God is leading and where he is warning. Spiritual sensitivity is a shield that allows you to move wisely, not anxiously. It helps you stay one step ahead of every hidden plot. When you obey that still, small voice, you move in the rhythm of divine timing, untouched by traps laid in secret. God does not reveal to alarm you. He reveals to secure you. To walk in spiritual awareness is to walk under heaven's light, seeing through every shadow that dares approach your destiny. Purity is not weakness, it is spiritual power in its highest form. Darkness thrives in environments where sin, deceit, and pride have taken root, but purity builds a fortress that the enemy cannot breach. When your heart is clean before God, every plan of the wicked loses its grip on you. Evil cannot touch what God has sanctified. Purity closes every spiritual door that witches, warlocks, and demonic forces attempt to enter through. It is not just about moral behavior. It is about alignment. When your spirit, mind, and actions align with truth, you carry divine authority that repels darkness without even speaking a word. The enemy seeks entry points: bitterness, unforgiveness, jealousy, and compromise. But a pure heart leaves no opening. When you choose forgiveness instead of revenge, peace instead of hatred, truth instead of manipulation, you are building invisible walls of light around your life. The devil's greatest frustration is the soul that refuses to be corrupted. Such a person becomes spiritually unapproachable, surrounded by the radiance of holiness. The presence of God himself dwells in purity, and where he abides, no curse can remain. Living in purity also sharpens your spiritual sight. You begin to sense when evil is near, not with fear, but with calm awareness. Temptations lose their power because your desire for God outweighs every distraction. Purity allows you to hear God clearly. His instructions, his warnings, his comfort, all flowing freely into your heart without distortion. It becomes your weapon, your armor, and your peace. This month, the call to purity is not just moral advice, it is divine strategy. In a world flooded with darkness, purity makes you untouchable. While others are ensnared by manipulation or seduction, you will walk freely, surrounded by the light of righteousness. Evil cannot curse what God has cleansed, nor can it enter where holiness reigns. The more you choose purity, the stronger your shield becomes. You do not have to fight every battle. Sometimes standing pure is the greatest victory. Every curse spoken against a child of God carries within it the seed of its own destruction. What the enemy designs to harm you, God reshapes into a blessing that strengthens your faith and deepens your purpose. No dark word or ritual can override divine sovereignty. The moment an evil plan is formed, heaven already has a counterplan in motion. When witches and warlocks gather to release curses, they unknowingly become instruments for your elevation. Their hostility only pushes you deeper into the arms of divine protection. Every dart thrown your way becomes a testimony of how God turns darkness into light and pain into power. Throughout Scripture and throughout life, God has consistently shown that he can reverse the very weapons formed against his people. What was meant to destroy Joseph became his pathway to the throne. What was meant to silence Daniel became a demonstration of divine deliverance. And so it is with you. The things that rise against you only prepare you for greater authority. When curses are spoken, they must first pass through the presence of God, and there they are transformed. Instead of falling on you, they return to their sender as conviction or correction. You may not always see this transformation happen, but its evidence is undeniable. The more others try to curse you, the more God blesses you openly. The more they plot in the dark, the more your light shines. Even delays and setbacks that seem like losses are being rewritten in heaven as victories. The hand of God knows how to turn betrayal into breakthrough and warfare into worship. So do not fear the curses spoken against you this month. Fear belongs to those who do not know who protects them. You are covered by a covenant stronger than any spell. Every dark intention directed toward your life will only highlight the power of your protector. What the enemy sends to break you will become the very reason you rise higher. For no curse can withstand the transforming grace of God. Faith is the language of victory, while fear is the invitation to defeat. In times when darkness seems to gather and evil whispers try to unsettle your peace, the call is not to tremble but to trust. Fear gives power to the enemy, but faith draws power from God. When you stand in faith, you declare that no matter how intense the battle appears, you already know who has won. This month, there may be moments when shadows press close, when voices of doubt echo around you, but faith will silence them all. Faith reminds you that God is not pacing heaven in worry. He reigns with calm authority over every storm that rises against you. Standing in faith means refusing to bow to the illusions of darkness. Witches and warlocks thrive on fear, because fear opens the door to influence. But when your spirit remains anchored in faith, their words and rituals lose their target. They cannot strike what is shielded by belief. When you lift your hands in worship instead of worry, you disarm the enemy's strategy. Worship changes the atmosphere. It shifts your focus from the problem to the power that controls all things. Faith does not deny that battles exist. It simply refuses to let them define your peace. It sees the unseen and knows that God is working even in silence. When you trust His timing, when you rest in His promises, you become immovable. No curse, no spell, no hidden plan can shake the foundation of a heart rooted in faith. So stand strong, not because you are fearless, but because you know who fights for you. Let your confidence rise like a banner that declares, God is my defender. Do not be distracted by the noise of darkness. This month, choose faith over fear, prayer over panic, worship over worry. The forces of evil may conspire, but heaven has already written your victory. Faith will keep you steady when everything else shakes, and through it, you will see that the God who protects you is greater than anything that dares to rise against you. So when shadows move, don't be afraid. Let them move, for even in the dark, God's light cannot be silenced. You are not surrounded by enemies, you are surrounded by angels. This month, no spell, no curse, and no power of darkness will prevail, because God Himself is your shield.